everybody, it's me, Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie. On this episode of CD Junkie, I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite bands of all time. That is right. They're right up there with Badfinger and The Clash and Squeeze and Split Enz and Mental as Anything and Nick Lowe and so many other great artists. I am talking about a Liverpool quartet. That's right, by the name of Yachts. Now, some of you are going, Yachts? Oh, what is that, yacht rock? I've heard it a million times, folks. But Yachts, an incredible band. Back in 79, 80, 81, they were on every mixtape that I made. For friends, for girls, and for myself. Just one of the most amazing bands. And it's become kind of a habit that I always tend to mention them in a lot of the videos that I do or the live streams that I do on other people's channels, because they are a band that I'm still talking about some 44 years after I got their debut album. Now, I always like to start these videos off by telling you how I got into the band, and that's because I was at Licorice Pizza, which was a record store, a chain store in Southern California. I was flipping through the bins, and I always flipped through the miscellaneous sections, miscellaneous, and then try to find new bands that way. And then finally, one day after I'd been at the record store for quite a while, I got to Y, and I started flipping through, and this was mid-1979, June maybe, July, and I saw this album by Yachts. I picked it up. I got, wow, these guys look like they're kind of cool, kind of unassuming, kind of laid back on this album cover. They were on a boat, but it wasn't a yacht. But, I get it. The album was called S.O.S. And I put it back in the bin, and I only had enough money. I probably bought the Jam Setting Suns or something. Every time I went back to Licorice Pizza, I'd panic. Oh, please, I hope nobody bought it. Sometimes somebody would have bought it, and I'd have to wait for it to get restocked. But I keep going back, and I check the Y section, and finally, it was getting close to my birthday that year, and I just told my parents, I want the album by Yachts. And my parents, of course, what? Is that punk rock? And it's like, I don't know. I'd never heard it. So I just knew that I wanted it. I mean, it was on Polydor, and the Jam were on Polydor. And I saw Radar Records on the back, too. Ooh, that was the label that had Nick Lowe and Elvis Costello. So I had to really get this album. So on my birthday, I got two great albums. One from my parents, which was Yachts. And the other one was from my girlfriend at the time, and that was the first album by The Records. And I was blown away by it. Both of these albums. I mean, hello, it's amazing. I just turned 16, obviously, that day, and my mind was just being opened by this wonderful pop. I don't know if we knew it as power pop then or new wave or whatever, but it was just exciting and excellent. And that particular album has not come out on CD, but everything on it is available on CD. And you can get that in this box set here. And I'm going to go through each album here. It's real quick because they're such an amazing band, but you need to know about them. And this box set is available. This has pretty much everything officially released by Yachts. Now, before I get into the albums, I just want to show you on this box set, I'm such a big Yachts fan that I was actually thanked in the liner notes to this because, they knew that I'd been out there on the internet trying to push this band well before this box set came out. And I thank Henry Priestman for that. In fact, when the box set came out, I bought a copy immediately, but then I wanted to get a copy straight from Henry. So I went to his website and I bought the box set. And if you buy from Henry, if he's got any more in, he'll sign it for you. So he signed the booklet for me. In this box set, you're going to be able to get the first and second album, as well as a third CD featuring all the non-album A and B sides. Incredible. So let's go back to that first album that I got. This is the album cover of the American album, as I showed you just a few moments ago. So one day I'm up in LA with my brother, our friend Rick Invelt, and we're going to go see Robert Gordon at the Roxy. That's the same show that I met all the members of Madness. Well, before that, we had gone to Tower Records, which is just down the street from the Roxy, and I saw in the yacht section import was this album. This is actually the first album, the British version. So there are some slight track changes. They took off a song or two and added a song or two for the American, but it's pretty much the same album, just different track order. And there's the back of the album. If any of you own the American, that's the same as the American album. Incredible. Produced by Richard Gotterer. It is edgy, it is. A lot of people call them power pop. I don't think they're really power pop. They're not new wave. They're definitely 60s influence. Henry Priestman on vocals and keyboards. I don't know if it's Farfisa or Vox. Martin Watson on guitar and vocals. Martin Dempsey on bass and vocals, and Bob Bellis on drums and vocals. They had these great vocal harmonies that were somewhere between the Beatles and, with a little touch of operatic, and it was amazing. Now, the thing is they are from Liverpool. They sound nothing like the Beatles. That's the thing. When you think about all these great bands from Liverpool, Teardrop Explodes, Yachts, It's a Material, OMD, The Icicle Works, all these great bands came from Liverpool, and they didn't have to sound like the Beatles. But man, their cachet was just stacked with songs, and Yachts were incredible. They had great songs on this album like Yachting Types, Love You, Semaphore Love, Mantovani's Hits, Box 202. I would say the list is endless, but there's only 12 songs on the album. So, but all are great, wonderful pop songs, just boisterous, fun, clever lyrics, great time it had by all. Back then, like I said, I was listening to The Jam, Buzzcocks, Clash, stuff like that. These guys were not that edgy, snarly type of pop. These guys were just cranking out great tunes one after another. Now, somewhere between that album and this album, Martin Dempsey left the band, and he was replaced by a gentleman by the name of Glenn Havard. And they put out this album, which is Yachts Without Radar. And this album was produced by Martin Rushent, and the production was a lot different. The songs, I think they're just as great as the first album, but there was something going on there. It seemed like the lyrics were darker. The production wasn't as tight as Richard Gottehwer's. In fact, it was more spread out. Now, at this point, Martin Rushent was known for producing, like, let's say, the Stranglers and Buzzcocks. So it had that sort of spacious sound. The instruments were separated more, so the power wasn't right in your face like it was on the first album. But still, a quality batch of songs. I kind of call this their prog album. Humorously, I call that, because there's a couple songs on here. They go into these like instrumental riffing and they're wonderful, but it's not like the 3-minute pop songs of the first album. Most of the album is like that, but they do go off on musical tangents, and they're great musicians, and they're clever and melodic, great vocals. And it was just another great album. When this came out in America, they had changed some of the songs. They had removed a few and added a few, but this is the UK track listing there. But don't fear, but all the songs that were on the American albums that were not on the UK albums are included in the third CD here, which collects all the non-album A and B sides. And there's also alternate versions, like the versions of like Yachting Types and I Can't Stay Long. Those were actually different versions back in the day. Now, the interesting thing is this also has their debut single. The original vocalist was J.J. Campbell. He had left after the first single that had come out on Stiff Records, and he formed a band later on with Henry Priestman called It's Immaterial, and they are incredible. I'll probably do a video on them. They too have a very small catalog of titles, but amazing music. Nothing like Yachts, but still fantastic. But this has that debut single, and it has a bunch of tracks that are not available on albums, ending with their final single called A Fool Like You that came out on Demon Records. In fact, as far as I know, that's one of the first releases on Demon Records. And of course, now we know Demon for a lot of great reissues over the years. But Yachts, an incredible band, and an incredible box set that contains the debut and Without Radar, and then this collection of non-album B-sides. Incredible. Now, Henry Priestman went off, as I said, with J.J. Campbell, and they formed It's Immaterial. Put out some great stuff. He played with a lot of people, such as Echo and the Bunnymen. He eventually formed a band called The Christians, and they had some great success in the UK. And the last decade or two, he's been performing solo and with a gentleman by the name of Les Glover, and they put out a great album as well. Unfortunately, Mr. Bob Bellis left us a few years back, but he knew at that time that he and the music he created with Yachts was very well loved. It would have been great had he lived to see the release of this box set, but he definitely lives on in the music. Now, I want to leave you with this. Back when I was 16, 17 years old, and I'd go over to my friend's house, I'd have, one of those Glad baggies filled with import 7-inch singles that I'd carry with me, and I'd walk over to my friend's house, and I'd play all these records, and we would just sit back and we listen to the Jam, the Clash, Undertones, Buzzcocks, and definitely Yachts. I always played Yachts for as many people as I knew, and I turned a lot of people onto them. And thankfully, YouTube gives me a platform so I can continue trying to turn people on to this great music that they missed. And I'm going to do that right now because I put together a medley featuring just little snippets of songs from both of the albums, plus songs that were non-album tracks and B-sides. So give this a listen. I hope you like it, and I'll see you on the other side.
Suffice to say you love me. I can't say that I blame you. Suffice to say I love you too. I've tried several love. I've tried to salvage our love. So I'm feeling in the traits I knew. Will a punch out find another you? Please apply post haste to box 202. She's gone, I don't believe you. She's gone, she should have deceived you. She's gone, I won't believe that. She's run away with the Yachty type. With the Yachty type. Two heads you say I'm better than one. Well, girl, if that's something, that's something. To tell me now for done. Permanent damage to everything, everything. I wouldn't climb any mountains for you. But every stream has a damn thing to do. Yes, I'm cynical, 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 cynical. Through and through and through and through and through and through. So can you blame me now? I'm sure you do the same, I'll vow. You got to understand it's much too late. Now I'm spoken for. Know you found someone new. I can't get over you. There's a ghost in my house, and I can't hide from the ghost of the love inside. It keeps on haunting me. Join the march of the modern race. In the march of the modern race. To the march of the modern race. In days gone by, they used to call me entertainer. She calls me calm and wise. Why? Well, I for one can't blame her. Yet this last act, walking freely, city scenery, fills me up with what I see. And vast expanses, charge accounts in other people's names. Steaming round on wheels of fire.
Anyway, that's it for my video on Yachts. I've talked about them many times before, and I will continue talking about them. A band that truly made an impact on my life, and a band that had made an impact on a lot of other people's lives. And hopefully my excitement and passion will inspire you enough to check out this band. I definitely thank you for your time. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring that bell for future notifications. And until the next time, remember me. I'm Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie.